One of the big things that we're trying to stop is we're trying to stop kids leaving these shores. The more we lose, the more talent we have to develop.
With Kevin Durant, I'm not going to let you get away with that. You cannot say that he hasn't earned those points.
No, I didn't say he's earned them. I said he's earned them. I said these days in the NBA, though, there is a lot of gimme points. Is your dream even higher on us to be the first German man to ever play for the All Blacks?
Every player that plays in New Zealand, whether he's from here or not, aspires to wear a black jersey one day.
Welcome to the DSPN.
He's given him. Oh, there you go. He was forward.
Oh, a punch-up now in midfield. Fraser's involved.
The Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome to the DSPN, people. Martin, Devlin, Lachlan Waugh talking sport as we do. New show and / podcast out every afternoon. If you're watching on the DSPN YouTube channel, please hit subscribe for us. Thank you so much. We're trying to get to 5,000 subscribers. And thank you for supporting our social media, Martin Devlin _DSPN. Share, like, follow, leave us a comment, all of that. We're going to have a bit of fun with Super Rugby shortly, because it's all kicking off, of course, tomorrow night, this weekend. On the show today, though, Anton Segner, Blues breakaway ahead of their opener versus the Chiefs Saturday night. A brand new bid for another NRL franchise side out of this country. Tight 5 topics, including Joe Parker, 4 newbie-ish first fives for the NZ arse sides. Katie hits 30,000 points. Champions Trophy cricket. And does Aussie have a chucker? We start the show the same way every day.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
A whole lot of things that are bound to happen in Super Rugby this year. A New Zealand team will win it. The Force definitely won't. Neither will MP, the Drua, or in fact any of the Aussie sides. They'll be talked up in Australia, though. You'll hear "this is our year" almost more times than you would in a Warriors chat room. Almost. The words Lions Tour are going to be mentioned at least once a game during every game involving any Aussie side every weekend. So will the name Joe Schmidt, with some reference, of course, to who his selections might be for that Lions Tour. There will be yellow cards given for things that none of us believe should be yellow. That's a guarantee. And the TMO will get over-involved and make decisions that no one who's been watching rugby since William Webb Ellis first picked up a ball and ran with it is ever going to understand. A scrum will collapse, and then it'll collapse again, and then the ref is going to penalise the attacking team, which again no one will understand, because why would the attacking team want to concede a penalty when they're attacking? I've never got that bit of it. Someone somewhere is going to moan that it's all started way too early. It's still cricket season. That happens every single year. There will be box kicks. Lots of box kicks. More box kicks followed by a whole heap of cross kicks. With all the co-captains being named in some games, there will be almost as many captains on the field as there are players on the bench. You repeat that out loud a couple of times and convince me again that it's not absolute nonsense for captains. Every other week, one of the Aussie commentators will bemoan the fact that the Rebels are no longer and suggest that perhaps the Melbourne franchise should be resurrected. About as much chance as Wales winning the Six Nations. Crowds for the Blues will be better than last year, but they still won't match either those for the Warriors or Auckland FC. Within 2 weeks, the mainstream media here are going to be running a story or 10 about potential All Black bolters. Scott Robertson will be asked during a pitside interview the exact same question more than once, and he'll fudge the answer and not really say anything about any individual player mentioned more than once because he can't. Because he just can't until the All Blacks get selected. Sadly, there will be injuries, and all us selfish All Blacks fans hope that whoever it isn't any of our best international players. Every single article written, TV clip filmed, news story offered, analysis and or opinion proffered about Mana Pasifika will at some stage during the piece mention the name Ardy. Again, that's guaranteed. There's going to be some dead awful games you wished you'd never sat through, games that thieve time. There always are. It's just like the NRL, the EPL, the NFL. Some games are just mud. It is what it is. And finally, a New Zealand team will win it. And that is about as obvious as saying that Wales won't win the Six Nations.
Devlin.
Rugby this weekend. Super Rugby is back. Blues Chiefs, the marquee match up on Saturday night. I say that because it's a repeat of last year's final, and Blues breakaway and champion from last year, Anton Segner, joining us. Welcome back, mate.
Cheers, guys. How's it going?
Welcome back to rugby.
Yeah, exactly. Rugby's back, so pretty exciting times.
Are you ready as a team for this match?
Yeah, I think we're definitely not in a bad spot. We had two good preseason games against the Hurricanes and against the Crusaders, which was good to get some game time under the belt before we probably get into it this week. And then, yeah, I mean, we've been bashing each other since the end of November now. So, yeah, the boys are all keen to actually play against some opposition, which isn't ourselves.
In case you haven't been in and around Auckland, people, over the last few months, damn, it's been hot. It's been stinking hot. So, how has that been with all of that training?
Yeah, the sort of sunscreen supply has definitely been used up by all the boys. But no, it's been good. We try to prepare ourselves as much as possible with hydration and whatnot. But yeah, as you say, the sun's pretty aggressive down here, especially compared to Germany. So I need to stay on top of the sunscreen for sure.
What do you get from the preseason games? What do you learn from those games?
You learn quite a bit. It's obviously a good opportunity to get some connections going within the team with some of the new guys coming in. You know, we've got some new players like Shea Clark, Peyton Spencer, Xavier Taele, and the list goes on. So those are some good games to get those boys in and give them some time on the field with the rest of the team, because they'll definitely be needed throughout the season. And on top of that, just making connections and really getting the whole squad onto the same page around how we want to play this year.
Are all the All Blacks back yet? I know that they won't be playing straight away, but are they back with you?
Yeah, they're back with us. We had them playing against the Hurricanes last week, and yeah, they're all on board this week as well, so they're all back in.
Because it's a big jostle for those loose forward positions. You've got a lot of guys who've got a lot of experience. You've got Dalton in there, obviously. You've got Hoskins in there. You've got Chody in there.
Yeah, that's right. We got those three, and then we got Cam Suafo as well. And then, as mentioned previously, we got our young Shea Clark, who comes from a sevens background. So he's one hell of an athlete too. But yeah, iron sharpens iron. So we all sort of work off each other, and we push each other to become better at the end of the day.
You know, you're a young man. I mean, you were named in that under-20 side years ago. Of course, that was during the COVID years. You've had success. You've won a Mitre 10 title. You've won a Super Rugby title now. I mean, so what next for you?
What next is what we're talking about really, which is this season ahead with the Blues. So yeah, which for me, my own personal goal is again get as much game time as possible for myself, and yeah, try and cement the starting spot with Aki leaving. That obviously leaves a bit of an opportunity there, and yeah, keep everyone else on their toes and perform well.
How have you felt your game has progressed over the last 2 or 3 seasons, especially from Mitre 10 level? What kind of level has it gone up playing Super Rugby?
I think for me personally, obviously the game is a lot faster and a lot more physical versus Mitre 10 compared to Super. And I think for me personally, it's definitely been the physicality aspect. I mean, over this break now, I've put on 3 kilos of good body weight, that is. Well, that's what I like to think anyway. Right. Because, yeah, obviously rugby is a contact sport, and us as the Blues with Vern in charge, we obviously play quite a direct style of play, and that's where you need some bigger bodies. And, that's what I've gone away and worked at over the break. And, yeah, I think these last 2 pre-seasons, they've sort of helped me get used to playing at this weight as well, which is good. So now I'm looking forward to putting it to work during the season.
We've all noticed that style change that Vern Cotter has brought, much more direct, much more confrontational, less of, I suppose, the risk-taking and more getting yourselves in the right positions in the field. Has it been really noticeable, that change for you guys that he's brought?
Yeah, for sure. But us as the players, we how would you say, we really, I think, adopt that style of play because, yeah, as you say, it's very direct, it's very simple. So with some new guys coming in, I mean, before that Crusaders game, I think 2 days before kickoff, because we've been struggling with injuries, we had guys coming in. But since it's quite a simple game plan, it's easy for those guys to sort of pick up around how we want to play. And as a player, you just want clarity in your role. And once you've got that, you can play freely. So a simple game plan, a simple yet effective game plan like that is really a player's dream, I'd say.
What do the All Black players bring when they come back into the side? Because they come a bit later, but they've got, obviously international experience as much as anything else. What do you get from those guys?
Yeah, exactly. The first thing that they bring is definitely experience. So no matter what sort of situation or obstacle we're facing as a team, their experience always helps out. And that experience, I guess, it brings a sense of calmness to the rest of the squad, knowing that, yeah, we've got what it takes, not just because of those guys, but as a team, we've got what it takes to, beat every team when we're on our game, when we're on top of our game, and on top of that, obviously they've got some freakish talent.
Oh yeah.
As as well, which is pretty exciting to see, even if it's your teammate.
When you talk about that calmness, that's a great word to use, isn't it? Because once you've won it once, how does it change your mentality and the whole squad? Because you know that you are champions, you know you can get to that level now.
Yeah, exactly. So it sort of gives us that confidence knowing that we've done it before, which should sort of mean that there shouldn't be any reason as to why we couldn't do it again. But like I said earlier, when we first came in as a group at the end of November, the first thing we all agreed on is that winning one championship's hard, going back to back is even harder. So yeah, if we just play the same game or if we play at the same level that we did last year, that won't be good enough, because we're well aware that the other teams in the competition are getting a whole lot better. So yeah, we need to start where we left off last year and build on top of that if we want to win this thing.
What do you expect of the Australian sides this year, mate?
I think they'll definitely step up. Obviously, the Wallabies have gotten a lot better, and they've also recruited a few good players individually, those teams. So I think they'll definitely step up a few notches from last year. But yeah, like any other team, we give every team their very well-earned respect. So we expect them to play a very typical Australian style of rugby, which is tough through the forwards and then some skillful fast backs. So yeah, once we sort of face those teams, we'll have a plan in place for that too. But yeah, definitely not underrating them.
Anton, what does Fern say about the fact you've won last year? Does he put that to one side and say, okay, that was last year, this is this year? Do you go out to defend that title, or is his mentality you go out to win again?
Oh no, we definitely have to win again. If we go in with the mindset that we have to defend the title, then yeah, I think we've sort of lost it already, because it's not like because we won the final last year we get to start with 5 points before the game's even started. I mean, everything's back to square one. And yeah, as I said before, our sort of mindset as a team is that, yeah, it was all good and nice winning one, but winning a second is a whole other story. So we're well aware of the challenge that's ahead of us.
You've had success in a lot of it in a few years, haven't you? So what has that taught you about playing the game here in New Zealand, playing rugby, just actually being part of these teams that win?
In what way do you mean? Me personally?
Yeah,
what it's taught me?
Yeah.
I guess just that there's no replacement for hard work. I mean, I see how hard my teammates work, how hard the coaches work to put a performance out on Saturday night. And yeah, I guess if you're a part of an environment like that, it becomes pretty infectious. I mean, if you see the whole team sticking around after training for 10, 15 minutes, whether it's the backs doing kicking or the forwards doing their tackling, and whatever, it just goes to show that success is no coincidence, really, yeah, and that there's no shortcuts in this game. So yeah, I think that's the main takeaway for me, is that hard work is obviously hard work, but it also pays off if you do it well.
You're doing Nelson College proud, man. I mean, they must love you down there. You still in touch?
Still in touch with a few down there, yeah. Obviously, a few of the Tasman Marco fans weren't happy with my decision to move up to Auckland,
yeah.
But through school and stuff, I've made some lifelong friends down there, which is cool.
And your story is fantastic. I don't know whether we've ever had, a man who's sort of German, background, descent, born in Germany, come here, play his rugby, and achieve what you've actually achieved so far. It's just amazing, isn't it? Is your dream even higher on us to be the first German man to ever play for the All Blacks?
Yeah, of course. I think every player that plays in New Zealand, whether he's from here or not, aspires to win a black jersey one day. So, yeah, it's definitely one of my goals. But I also know that there's a whole bunch of other smaller goals that have to be achieved first to reach that honour. So, yeah, that's sort of quite big picture thinking.
Sure.
When we're talking about the black jersey, and there's a few other little achievements that I want to achieve first.
Well, of course, yeah, you've been New Zealand under-20s as well. Do you teach any of your teammates how to speak German? Any words?
Angus Tarvell actually prides himself on knowing a few languages, so he always picks my brains in terms of vocabulary and stuff like that. But yeah, it doesn't come out as fluent just yet. And a few of the other boys, they know a few basics, but all they ever want to learn is the swear words.
Yeah, man, that's all. Yeah, I know. We're boys, that's what we do, mate. I mean, we grow past being 14. Look, it's great talking to you. You know, all the very best for the season. It's exciting, isn't it? I mean, there will be people who say, and it always is, it's come too early and it's cricket season and everything else. But I've been missing this competition. It was a fantastic comp last year, mate.
That's right, I agree. Yeah, no, us as players, we're very much looking forward to it as well.
All the very best for the season. Thank you so much for your time.
Awesome, Martin. Thank you.
The Tight Five.
5 separate sporting topics. You know the drill if you follow the DSPN. And if you do, hit the subscribe button on YouTube or like, share, follow, leave us a comment right across social media. Martin Devlin _DSPN. Thank you for that. 5 topics. We might even squeeze 6 in, 90 seconds or so on each. And when the bell reminds us, on to the next one we go. 4 kind of new first fives for the 4 of the 5 New Zealand Super Rugby sides. Let's talk about that. Joe Parker. Well, the payday if he wins this fight against Dubois to fight Usyk for all the belts. Champions Trophy. More results overnight. Again, do they mean that much? Kevin Durant, second fastest ever to 30,000 NBA points. The Aussie chucker. Is that a bit cruel for Matt Kuhneman? 2-2 draw between Everton and Liverpool. So you still got a 7-point lead. I mean, let's not waste too much time on this because the rest of the league, we don't really care, but you're 7 points up. And what else needs to be said? You're still going to win the title, right? I'm not even going to... This is not a topic. I'm just going to deal with it now. You're still winning the title. You're 7 points up. Arsenal have to beat you.
The book was closed if we won.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Arsenal need to beat us, and then we need to lose another game.
And then
they're still a point behind, and that's assuming they don't drop points.
Yeah, okay. So I think you're pretty right. Let us start with the 4 brand new... Well, I'm going to call them brand new first fives. They aren't, of course, but you'll see what I mean. Okay. The 2 most experienced first fives in New Zealand are obviously Beauden Barrett, Damon McKenzie. Both of those guys playing fullback for their teams, Super Rugby opening rounds. You've got Tane Robinson, Josh Jacob, Godfrey for the Hurricanes and Kamara for the Crusaders. This is the one position in New Zealand rugby where we're light. We've still got Paepaetele, of course, but we're pretty light in terms of international class experience. And I like the fact that these 4 young guys, I'm going to be watching all of these guys. I hope they go really well because we need somebody. Damien McKenzie has not convinced at first 5. He's probably going to be first choice this year for Razor, even though he's playing at 15. Beauden, is he going through to the World Cup? Probably not. So one of these names might be it.
Yes, I think we all thought it was going to be Harry Plummer, not based on his spectacular performances for the All Blacks last year, but by the fact that he had a good super season.
He was the next guy in line.
He was then in the All Blacks.
Yeah.
People don't realise he's a lot older than what I think people assume. I think people think he's in his early 20s. I think he's 26. He's
26, 27.
Year younger than me, I think. Look, none of us really know anything about any of them unless there's die-hard NPC fans out there who watched all the teams closely and wrote down all the stats and unpacked all of their games. But let's see how they all play. I think one thing that's really interesting, and that Damien McKenzie and Beauden Barrett are both starting at fullback. So our 2 prime first 5 candidates, if you will, and probably for the next World Cup as well, aren't playing 10. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
But
so hang on a second. So 7 rounds in, that still continues. Phone going to those coaches. It's Razor. Just a thought. We've got, some good test matches coming up this year.
Hold up.
Quite like to see those guys playing 10.
Hold up. We like to make it out that the All Blacks coach is like an emperor looking down on the team, telling them what you can and can't do. I think it's a bit nicer of a relationship than that. But what if he's doing the opposite right now? He's saying, hey, look, I know who my 2 main 10s are. Why don't you roll out some of these young guys? I want to see how they go. But just quickly, Harry Godfrey is probably the one that we should all keep an eye on, thanks to the expertise of one Tony Johnson, who brought that up on the podcast yesterday.
Joe Parker fighting Dubois. It's not this weekend, it's the following weekend in Saudi. But news today that Usyk says he is going to fight the winner of this fight. He's got 2 fights left. Usyk, man, what motivation that is for both Joseph and Dubois to win that fight, because not only are all the belts up for grabs with Usyk, but the payday would just be extraordinary, wouldn't it? He's the biggest box office there is in heavyweight boxing. You fight him, you're just, cashing in.
He is the best boxer, best heavyweight boxer in the world, and you could talk about
question,
pound
mate. Look, he did. Look, I don't care what Tyson Fury says. You lost that fight.
I was just got off the side. I'm not suggesting Tyson Fury's a better boxer. I'm just, is he more box office than Tyson Fury? Tyson Fury's got the sort of the added box office value to be. Anyway,
Well,
that was
because
just a side
Tyson
question.
Fury brings in that huge British audience and everything else. I'm not sure in the American market, Usyk versus either Dubois or Parker is going to get the kind of audience that Tyson versus Holyfield is going to get.
Of course not. No, it's spectacular news for Joseph Parker, who, I think you and I on at a different media outlet that we were at before this, we talked a lot about how Parker's career was done. It's over. There's no point of it. And then he beat Wilder, and then we had to, eat some humble pie and go, we got it wrong.
Yeah,
well done, Joseph Parker. And this is continuing
He's been
along.
reborn, mate.
He has.
Yeah.
It's been one of the great comebacks by a New Zealand athlete or team over the last few years.
No
Absolutely.
question.
So
a lot of time, a lot of sport. I've always loved Joseph as a person as much as a boxer, but I genuinely thought that after he'd lost, that that was going to be it. But that Wilder fight completely revitalised his career.
If Dubois is a good fighter, Kiwis won't know much unless you're a real boxing nut. Kiwis won't know much about Daniel Dubois. He is a good fighter. So if Parker wins this, well done. And then if you get to the Usyk fight, then there's surely no pressure because it's just a good payday. You're facing one of the greatest boxers of all time.
Money.
But if you don't beat Dubois, there's no shame there because he's a good fighter.
Champions Trophy again. Results overnight. Warm-up matches.
I don't care. It's what's incredible. This is the third time you have brought up these warm-up matches this week.
I tell you,
how on earth are we talking about it?
I'm banging the drum. The tournament kicks off next Wednesday. Australia got absolutely dicked by Sri Lanka overnight. That doesn't matter. Pakistan thrash. It doesn't matter. All that I'm hoping again is that we play Pakistan this weekend with no injuries. That's all. Just no injuries. No bowler pulls up lame. Nothing like that.
Yeah.
But no one's going to remember any of these results next week.
2008.
Next week.
We talk a little bit about American sports. We love it, and I'll refer back to it. 2008, the Detroit Lions went 4-0 in preseason. Oh, okay, here we go. What happened in the regular season?
0-16.
0-16.
0-16. I'm not even going to.
It just doesn't matter.
I'm going to stop the clock. Kevin Durant, the fastest to 30,000 NBA points. The caveat I'm going to put on this is that when you hear the list of those that are previous on this list, clumsy way of saying that have got to 30,000 points, they earned their points. There's a lot of gimme points available in the NBA this year. But Durant is legit.
I'm not going to let you finish that sentence. That is ridiculous.
Give me the other names on the list. He's number 8. Who are they?
To
30,000
points. Okay, LeBron James, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Karl Malone, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal would be one of them.
Nope.
Okay, Wilt Chamberlain.
Yes, Wilt's on every list.
Dirk Nowitzki.
What does Dirk Nowitzki have that no one else has, or what is the thing that makes him stand out?
Well, that he's a big man. He's the first big man to really stretch the floor.
Oh, he's a white boy. He's from
Europe.
I
don't see race, Martin.
So he's a white guy from Europe.
He's a white guy from Europe.
But when you add Dirk Nowitzki to that list, you read out those names. These are the most legendary names in basketball ever. And Dirk Nowitzki's on that list. And because
he's one of the greatest players ever.
Thank you. I never think he has ever gotten the credit he deserves.
No, he didn't. Well, there's a couple of reasons why. It's the same reason. One of them is the same reason why it took many players in the NBA or coaches or analysts to accept the fact that Nikola Jokic is the best player in the league. I'm not trying to bring a race war into this. There is an issue within the NBA of accepting of big European white men. They don't like it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's why Luka Doncic, a lot of people decided that thought that he wouldn't make it, right?
Well, no, not that. But it's a good point. In that draft, the storylines ahead of it were DeAndre Ayton's the number one pick. He is the obvious choice. It's like, no, there's this dude who's playing for Real Madrid over in Europe who's 16 or 17. He's the MVP of the EuroLeague.
Yeah.
He's special. But with Kevin Durant, I'm not going to let you get away with that. You cannot say that he hasn't earned those points.
No, I did say he's earned them. I said he's earned them. I said these days in the NBA, though, there is a lot of gimme points. But he's earned his.
Shooting 3-pointers is a gimme point. Like, I don't like the way the game is played. I prefer
every
old school
second
sort
week
of
guys on 70 points. But those other names.
But seriously, he is the most gifted. Like, out of every player in the history of the league, he offensively is the most gifted player because he stands close to 7 foot and he can shoot from anywhere on the floor.
But guys like Kobe, MJ, Kareem, Wilt, they earned a lot of points when there wasn't that 3-point shooting.
It was a different style.
The defence was a lot harder in those days.
Yeah, well, so like Michael Jordan, one thing that people go on about how great he is, one thing people don't understand.
LeBron's on that list as well.
Yeah, of course. Is Michael Jordan was superb in the paint. He could shoot the ball, but he played inside with bigger guys. He was 6'6".
Right. The other thing about Michael Jordan, 9-time NBA All-Star defensive team.
Yeah.
So he played both ends.
He was NBA Defensive Player of the Year, which a two-way guard doesn't really get.
That's why he is the greatest ever. Finally, the Aussie chucker, Matt Kuhneman. Now, this is the left-arm spinner. He dominated the series recently against Sri Lanka. cricket fans all over the world, as soon as the story hit the press, the first thing everyone is saying, you guys absolutely hacked Murali, right? The Australian crowd dumped all over Murali, and a lot of Australian cricketers and commentators dumped all over Murali. So what poor old Matt's going to wear is he's going to wear a lot of that coming back at him because of that. I don't know whether he chucks the ball.
What's the rule? It's something around 15 degrees.
15-degree arm or some load of both. And then when you go and actually get tested, well, you're going to make sure every delivery you bowl is legit anyway, aren't you? So I don't know. Look, they did this with Murali, whose action was really, at times, really questionable, if not completely illegal. But when he actually did the testing, of course, he bowls absolutely beautifully and perfectly. But if you ask anyone that's faced him, and we've had that privilege of being able to ask cricketers that have faced him, and they've all raised the eyebrow and gone, there's a few that he chucks, no question about it.
Well, okay, so when they talk about testing, can't they just look at the footage that you were referred by in the first place?
With the technology they've got these days, rather than you go in and re-bowl, I reckon that they should absolutely be able to micro your technique down. Surely. And
if you do it, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, or you do it 6 times, say an entire over, there you go, penalised. Shouldn't that be the rules? Or is that too logical?
That makes too much sense, doesn't it? So watch the space on this one.
Kind of good, because as much as, I've said a number of times on this segment that I love the Aussie cricketers, at the same time, as you said there about what they said about Murali.
Yeah, they dumped all over him, mate. And also, every time he bowled, no ball, the crowd would yell. Every time.
They push the boundaries, and it's like the sandpaper gate. It's just nice when there's a bit of just dessert served.
Agree.
DSPN.
Mana Pasifika into the NRL, a team that celebrates our Pacific Māori cultures, draws players from all around this beautiful part of the world, and competitive as well. Well, what a dream. Maybe one that can come true. Geoff Brown is the spokesperson for this bid. A press release came out over the weekend. What kind of response? First, welcome to the show first, before I even ask a question. My bad, Geoff. Great to have you aboard.
Whakatailawa and tarofa, malo lei, kirana, whakalofa ariatu, malo ngi, and tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you for having me on board your show. And obviously, since the release on Friday, we've been very, very busy.
I bet. Show us that logo first. Get that right up in centre of the camera there so we can have a good... Yeah, beautiful. Look, as soon as I heard this idea, I thought, yeah, what a great idea. What kind of response have you had to it since the press release came out and it's become public knowledge?
I think it's been long overdue. A lot of people have talked about a Pacifica team, a true Pacifica team. The response we've had has been positive, and there's also been a lot of people that are wanting to see a team somewhere else. With the other bids, obviously, there's talks about the other bids in the South Island. But as a Pacifica entity, it's exciting. I've spoken to a lot of former players. I've had a few boys reach out that have played for other NRL teams, and also just quietly behind this bid, we've got a huge amount of experienced people supporting this movement. Eden Park. I mean, it's been spoken about in weeks and months about whether that park is sustainable or there's all. But for Pacifica, it's home to us. I grew up. I'm New Zealand born, Samoan, both my parents. I'm an Aucklander, Kiwi at heart, but I'm also a Pacific Islander, and I represent all Pacific people. And Eden Park was that stadium. Carlo Park was the original stadium. I played in the 80s and a little in the 90s, and that was taken away, obviously. And so got sort of Mount Smart, but Eden Park has been sort of our premier park for years. And as you know, a lot of us Polynesians lived in the central CBD of Auckland back in the 70s. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah, Ponsonby was working men's cottages, man, is what it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's exactly it. We've had a huge response, and obviously there's more to come. We've just got to stay in our lane and do everything that we've prepared really well with the Mayor of Auckland jumping on board, Wayne Brown, great, and also with Nick Sholtner and with the stadium and obviously the Auckland Rugby League, New Zealand Rugby League. Been involved with those guys for some time, and the Warriors as well. I've had some work with the Warriors, so it's been well received, but there's a lot to come.
Okay, so just outline for people. So this would be a team that would be exclusively Polynesian Māori players, and you would have the ability to select from everywhere around the Pacific?
Yeah, so definitely a Pacific Indigenous team. You obviously have to be a Pacific descent, and obviously being based in New Zealand, we're working a lot with the iwis around, providing them sort of pathways as well. We're not saying that you can't come from Australia. There's a lot of our kids living in Australia at the moment. As you know, there's been a huge exodus of talent. Auckland and New Zealand is still, in the Pacific, still the largest pool of players that are going into the NRL competition. I think it's now, we've got it down at 65%, around 65% of Pacific Indigenous descent in the NRL. So it's huge. So
massive. Yeah,
the kids of Samoa, Tonga, Cook Islands, Niuean, Tukilau, and especially, the two big ones at the moment is Samoa and Tonga. I mean, they've just had
Fiji in there as well. Fiji as well. Yeah.
Yeah, Fiji's not part of the of this bid, but they had their own bid.
Okay.
So Fiji had a bid that had involved, and so we're not saying that Fijian players can't partake, but just with the way we've structured this bid, we'll sort of focus on Samoa, Tonga, the Cook Islands, Niue, Tukilau, and obviously the Indigenous Māori being here in this country as a base.
Geoff, you are. I mean, I don't even want to ask the question because it's just such a dumbass question. But that the fact that why do you need a Pacifica team? Why? Because as you say, you've got players spread out over all the teams. Why do you have to have it exclusive like this?
Well, look, like I said, I grew up here playing sport, rugby league. I did athletics as well. Ran for Auckland, secondary schools in New Zealand, and look. It's important for Pacifica to contribute off the field, not just on the field. And a huge part of that is ownership. Part of the ownership we're looking at is Pacifica. Myself as a director, and we have a number of other staff and people on board that we're part of Mana Pasifika. But we also have the Pacific Nations. We actually flew to the islands and spoke to ministers and prime ministers how important it was to be a part of this. And so, the big thing that we contribute so much on the field. We do a lot, to prepare for the on-field. And one of the things we don't do is that we don't have a voice, as represented at the table. And at the moment, there's no franchise owned by Polynesians in the NRL. And so for us to be part of that is really important. And also sharing our cultural equity with the NRL. Because at the moment, they're flying high at the moment. As you know, that they're Belandis and Abdo have done a great job, and they continue to grow the game globally. And so to be part of that, we just want to make sure that that we're at the table as well and around those discussion points.
Is it kind of like along the same lines, same department store maybe, but on a different floor to Moana Pasifika and the Super Rugby?
Look, definitely. The synergies between us and the boys from Moana are very similar. It's no different. It's a code. A lot of us have played rugby union and league. So I know Michael's played a bit of rugby league. I know Kevin Singer and a lot of them. I think Brian Williams played a bit of league in their time. So we play both codes. And I think that the thing about it is that the ownership model is, I'm not sure about the ownership model, but we believe the synergy is the same. So Pacific Island ownership, Pacific Island, vision, but also engaging our people as well and uplifting them. It's about uplifting our people and making sure that they understand that it's a Pacific entity, but it's also an NRL license that we have to, we have to contribute to and obviously work alongside them. But it's really important. The synergy is the same. It's just a different.
So we've got 17 teams at the moment, and they've got an 18th team, PNG, looking for another couple of teams. Obviously, there's a couple of bids from Christchurch. There's a Sydney bid in there. There's a West Coast of Australia bid as well. a lot of it comes down to this, man. It comes down to the money. MP have struggled along those lines, just in terms of the business case, the business model. So how do you propose to underwrite all of that and to make sure that you're financially competitive? Because playing strength numbers and that, I think most of us realise that. Yeah. That's probably the least of your worries. But the cash and the cash flow and getting that support, that sponsorship, all of that.
Yeah, look, I've been involved for 40 years at the international space, alongside Samoa Rugby League, Rugby League Samoa, and I've seen the sort of difficult challenges they've had in the international space. I've also heard about the difficulty with Mana Pasifika and their challenges, but I think those challenges are with every club at the moment. I don't think there's a club anywhere in the world speaking that they're at the top of their game, especially in the rugby and rugby league space. The NRL, in terms of their business model, financial year on year, they've been profitable for the last 5 years. So, the NRL in itself is providing really good services to each of the franchises that they offer concessions. Our model is based off, we have shares in the company. We're currently talking with investors, and we have for the last 6 months. This is not just something that we've sort of fallen into. We're talking to private investors. We're talking to equity groups. We're even talking to government. So I think I mentioned we're up in Samoa, we're up in Ireland and the Cook Islands, and we're talking with prime ministers across the region. So yeah, we're knocking a lot of doors. A lot of the key investors in New Zealand, I can't mention names, but they're big names, heavy hitters. We're in discussion with them at the moment, and we're also talking to people overseas. So I used to work for an American company many years ago, over 20 years ago, and he sold his company for $555 million. So Dave Charney's an old colleague of mine, so I've turned to some guys in the US.
Dial him up, yep.
And obviously we're knocking doors as well. So, but sure. Look, we've got a wide range of people on board our bid team and our consortium. So we're leaning on as much as we can in terms of providing them the necessary finance. The first stop is making sure there's the license fee, which is what the NRL has been asking for. So we're definitely we're working on that at the moment, and we're not too far away from that.
Auckland, so you want it to be based in Auckland. Again, there's going to be plenty of argument about, well, do we need 2 teams in Auckland? You've got the Warriors there. Do they want another team in Auckland? I think Andrew Webster even last year said, is there room for another team in New Zealand? I mean, Wellington's been crying out. Christchurch has been crying out. Why does it have to be Auckland?
Well, look, I'm just speaking purely because I'm born in Auckland, raised in Auckland, and my time as a sports person, I've travelled this country as well on different codes, multiple codes, and it doesn't matter where you go in New Zealand. Auckland is still the largest city, and if we look at the population at the moment, we're sitting about 1.5 million people plus in Auckland. Christchurch is about 400,000 plus, I think, from what I last. And Wellington is the same; they're around the 400k plus. So, look, in terms of the numbers, Auckland purely from a standpoint is a strong, has the metrics around providing an opportunity to put a team here. Obviously, with Eden Park being a venue, it's a venue that would utilise and also having, a lot of the decision makers in terms of business around the Auckland region. It makes sense. When I talk about two teams in Auckland, I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is the mindset of people and making sure that it's sustainable. If you look at Sydney alone, like Australia, there's 9 clubs in Sydney, 9 teams in Sydney. It has been for many years. And so, with a population of 5 million, 5 point something million,
like that,
it's about 540,000 people per team. So, Auckland's got 1.5 plus million. So having 2 teams is not the issue. I think it's just trying to really reiterate to people that, the athletes that live in Auckland, there's been many of them, now playing for other clubs in Australia in Australia, and vice versa.
We lose so many
across the country. So we've got a huge exodus. One of the big things that we're trying to stop is kids leaving these shores, and wanting, because the more we lose, the more talent we have to develop to make up for the ones that we're losing, the exodus. So once again, 9 clubs in Sydney. There's 4 in Queensland, 2 in Brisbane. Yeah, I don't think the issue will be having a second team in Auckland. It's just having the fortitude and vision to be able to ensure this sustainability.
That's our podcasting show for today. Again, if you're liking what you're listening and what you're seeing, then a small favour, if you will. Can you please hit like, share, subscribe, follow? Tell a friend about it. We are a fledgling podcast and show, the DSPN, and we need you. And if you are participating, well, just click that subscribe button. That would help enormously. Thank you so much if you already have. Again, tell a friend if you like. We're doing this every single day, putting out a show every afternoon. The DSPN.
This is the DSPN.